Would you pray with me, please? Holy God, may the meditations in my heart and the words in my mouth be pleasing in your sight. Amen. We continue on in our story according to Matthew, and our gospel reading for this day is chapter 14. I'm reading from the RSV again, verses 22 to 33. Hear the words of Matthew with me this day. Immediately, he made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up to the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But by this time the boat, battered by the waves, was far from the land, for the wind was against them. And in the early morning he came walking toward them on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart. It is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And he said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat, started walking on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me!" Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why do you doubt?" When they got into the boat, the wind ceased. And those in the boat worshiped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Here ends our reading of the gospel this day. Thanks be to God. Dear friends, it is good to have friends. It is good to be here among believers on this day. As usual, my humanness can sure get in the way of God's plan. Kind of happens on a regular basis with me. I don't need to know, but I'm wondering in your heart if that doesn't happen to you on occasion as well. I was on a miracle roll last week. If anyone remembers, I started, after our reading, our sermon about the feeding of the 5,000 like this. It's a miracle! And on we went. Well, I intended to say this morning, it's a miracle, take two. And then life happens during the week. And my plans changed. So I thought. And I became focused on our world. I became focused, not of choice by any means, on Charlottesville, Virginia. And I became devastated. And I became angry for our world, about our world, and even being in our world. Certainly not angry at God, mind you. Not at all. I had to check my heart about that. Angry because other people seemingly don't seem to understand how loving and omniscient and powerful your Lord God is. My focus, if you will, became skewed. I am focusing on the problem of hate and sin. Well, isn't that part of what we're supposed to be focused on as people of faith? Seeing, knowing, understanding faith, sin, hate, and love. And I'm the shepherd, gang. I'm supposed to know what to say when and how to put it all together. Well, here we were last night, and I am rereading my sermon notes. If I were to give these to my colleague and dear friend Jan and said, I can't preach, Jan, could you just pick up these cards and wing it for me? I know the woman well enough, she would have said, well, I'll give it a try, Kathleen. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, let alone one of my friends and colleagues. Scratch, scratch. I have arrows. I've got the pages numbered and they put them in the wrong order, and so I got to refix that. So I came in this morning. I even had, this is your true confessions of your presiding pastor. I had a different outfit to wear this morning, not the light up tennis shoes, that was last week. I know when, that's for another day. But I had what I thought was a very nice but perky outfit. And please know that everything in this world carries meaning. And so if you are tuned in only to the words of my mouth or the words of your friends and colleagues' mouth, I guarantee that you are missing part of the message, because my old communication professor wells up inside me and says 85% now of all the communication messages we send each other are nonverbal. It is not so much what you say, it is how you say it. This is part of the message today. So, I come into church, and I will admit to you, I was a little bit apprehensive. And I am usually never apprehensive when I step up in here to God's house. Lord, it's not about me. It's not about my anger over violence. It's not about that innocent people were killed. It's not. How you shake that one from your brain? We are, as Presbyterians, the Church of Social Justice. We lift that up as one of the things that we can do for the church in the world, and the world as they see us as the church. So now, walk with me, I kind of feel responsible to lift up and not pretend it didn't happen. Oh boy. So now I'm in my office. and I'm reading my sermon notes. God, I don't think so. God, I can't. It's a miracle? God, how inappropriate is that? So now, I'm sitting over here. Maple Ridge, I'll be back. I'm sitting here, and I hear the choir saying, "Peace be to this congregation." And I'm sure some of you know that when I sit there, it's not so that I can have a good view of the choir. I choose to sit there, and I choose to walk to the pulpit with intent. Because when I sit there, I am one of you and not part of our ministry team. I am one of you. And at that point, I pray the prayer that I prayed from the pulpit this morning, which is, God, may the meditations of my heart and the words of my mouth be pleasing unto you, not me. So I looked at my sermon, and God knew exactly what he was doing. We do believe in miracles, gang. I suggest to you that the world does believe in miracles. People put Miracle-Gro on their gardens. Where do you think that name came from? You know, it wasn't called a product called Should Grow. How do you think that would work? Oh, I got to run to Walmart, my favorite store, and get a whole gallon of Should Grow, ought to grow, kind of grow. Oops, I didn't grow. No. We call it Miracle-Gro, and we run to buy it for our gardens. And what? Yes, I could ask for, yeah, I'm going to ask for a show of hands. How many people have used Miracle-Gro in this group? God rests his case. Yeah. So, to say that we don't, in this contemporary society, believe in miracles wouldn't be a total truth. Otherwise, you wouldn't be purchasing that stuff. Let's go a little farther. I had a colleague of mine from the university that waited 2.5 years to adopt a Russian baby. Over the course of those 2 years, she and her husband got several undesirable texts from some of her colleagues and some of her friends that said, "Why would you want a Russian baby?" Really, God? And through all of that and all of the red tape, they still waited. At the end of 2.5 years, they were going to give up and seek adoption in this country and get on a waiting list. The very next week, I got a text from her that said the Russian adoption agency had released the child, and they brought home a Russian baby. It's a miracle. That's what she said to me. It's a miracle. My response? No kidding. We kind of do believe in miracles, do we not? So, why is it so hard for us sometimes to look back into the New Testament times, in the first century days, and say, yeah, but I'm not sure it really happened, you know, like that. People got fed, a lot of people got fed, and there was a way to do that. But this walking on water thing, there had to be stones or a reef that he was walking on. And indeed, maybe there was. Were you at the Sea of Galilee when it happened? I don't think so. Is it possible that there was a reef? Maybe. Nonetheless, don't focus on the act. Focus on the intent of your God about the event. See, we get caught up in too many details sometimes also. It's a fine balance, is it not? Here's Jesus as we go to Matthew's interpretation of this miracle. They just fed a whole bunch of people. Somebody had to clean up the mess. The disciples, we imagine, were probably there helping to gather. But then Jesus says, you guys get in the boat and go ahead of me, and I'll catch up with you later. Now, that's not so unusual. You ever walked around an art fair with your family or your friends or a party of more than 3 people, and you want to look at something in this booth here, and the other people you're with are like, are you kidding? You call that art? And they are definitely intent on looking at something in the next row. Is it not natural and normal for you to say, you go ahead, I'll catch up with you? I say that all the time because I'm just weird about art. You see? So it's not so unusual for Jesus to have said, you go ahead and I'll catch up with you. But it turned out to be a very strange and unusual night. Crowded together in this semi-flimsy boat are 12 guys. It's about 7 feet wide and 20-some feet long, about 27, I believe. 7 feet wide. A little long, I'm not good at numbers, but it's probably, look at our communion table. There you go. And it's long. And it's probably made of cedar or oak. We're not talking an industrial steel freighter that goes on the Great Lakes, right? So here they are, and they're moving. They got a half a sail, and they're doing some steering and moving, and it's starting to get darker. They can still see. The Sea of Galilee is calm, which is what happens because of the location. If you know anything about the geography there, the Sea of Galilee can be crystal clear and calm, like glass. But around it are hills and valleys. And what happens is once the winds shift and change, it can move this way and cause huge waves on that sea. Or lake, whichever you want to call it. It's also freshwater. Notice the comparison to where we live. So what happens is, here are these guys kind of going, after all of this, and he wants us to go ahead of him? Okay. And they get out there on that sea of glass. And guess what? Whoosh, whoo. Here comes the wind. We're not talking breeze, we're talking wind. Okay? 10-foot waves, common kind of experience even today. Now they know they're in trouble. Uh-oh. It gets stronger. They're moving. Now they're starting to panic. Now they know they're in serious trouble. And where is Jesus? They told us, he told us that he'd catch up with us. So where is he? When is he going to catch up with us? How is he going to catch up with us? We're separated. We're going to die out here. And our Jesus, our leader, is nowhere to be found. Oh, wait a minute. He told us he was going up to the mountain to pray. Echoes of Old Testament Moses when he went up to Mount Sinai and he left the chaos that was happening behind him. And what did he say? There's 2 times that Matthew talks about Jesus praying. They're both at critical times. The one is here at the Sea of Galilee. It says he went up to the mountain to pray alone. And the other time, anybody? Thank you. In the Garden of Gethsemane, when he left his faithful and said, stay with me, I have got to go pray. At critical times, Jesus withdraws from humanity and the place of earth which he's been put on to go commune intimately with his God. Don't lose that fact. So the disciples now are in a time of pointless human effort of chaos. I wrote that earlier in the week. They were in a time of pointless human effort and chaos. I believe that's where we are this day in our country. Are we not in a pointless time of trying with all of our human efforts to fix whatever it is not working here? And in that effort, we have sides and we have opinions. And all of those in our own minds are valid. Amen. Except we aren't realizing that in all of our disagreements, in all of our arguments, in all of that turns into violence and chaos, we are in a time of pointless human effort. Wind and water become almost overwhelming. Discussions and positions and political ideas are almost in a time of total, incomprehensible separation. Enter Jesus. In contrast, this morning, what does Jesus do? Just like Moses on Mount Sinai, he says, I'll catch up with you later. You all deal with the chaos. It's coming. And I'm going to go up and I am going to be close to my Father and we are going to commune and I will catch up with you later. Back in the boat, these guys are wearing out. Raging waves are happening. This is not a pond. The Sea of Galilee is 8 miles wide and 13 miles long. One more time, get the visual picture. 8 miles wide. You cannot see from shore to shore. And 13 miles long. It's sort of like being out in Lake Huron where you are and you cannot see the shore. And they think, this is it. We're going down. We believe, but where is the guy? He said he'd catch up. Now would be a really good time for him to catch up and intervene, would it not? It's no wonder that when they see the figure walking toward them, what's their natural response? I love this part. It's a ghost! Their first thought is not, thank goodness Jesus is coming to say, oh, no. No. Their first thought is, oh, no, now there's a ghost coming in the middle. We're dying, Lord. I'm coming, Elizabeth. For those of you that get that connotation. Okay, let's zero in together. Stay with me, because here's where the good stuff happens. The figure that they think is a ghost, that they're hallucinating about, says this: take heart. That means chill out. Take heart. The next thing he says is, it is I. Don't be afraid. Okay. But we're drowning. The boat's going to tip over. Okay. And so the other 11, we don't know, but here's my vivid imagination. I'm sure they're like, oh, that's not helping. Oh my gosh, I got to row fast. Andrew, put some pedal to the metal. Put some muscle in there, fellas. It's like, over here, over there, oh, the wind, put the sail down. Yeah, I hope that's confusing you all, because that's what it's supposed to do. Does it sound like us? Don't answer. They still aren't convinced Okay. Here comes Peter. Here comes Pete. Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water. Now you can say, oh boy, oh you of little faith, which Jesus does say later on in some translations. Don't miss the point. Who got out of the boat? Who got out of the boat? And what happened to the other 11? Can you picture it? Go ahead. I know you're all capable of using your imaginations. What is he doing? Is he nuts? He's a goner. We're losing Peter, the head dude. And Jesus said, they hear him say that. I can just hear them looking and going, and Jesus says one word, come. One word. He doesn't say, now, make sure you guys, I'm going to show you, we're going to use Peter as the example, and I'll be back with you. We're all going to be, no. He just says, come. And what happens? We don't know how he got out of the boat. Some people like to say, hey, and he jumped out of the boat and he walked. I don't know about that. Would you be jumping out of the boat even if you believed? I mean, first of all, I'm sure he probably fell out of the boat until he could stand. And you know the rest of the story. We know the story. Let's look a little deeper one more time. What he really was saying is, Lord, if it's really you, command me to risk my life for you and come to you. Because isn't that what he was doing? Lord, if it's really you, give me one word and I will risk my life and I will get out of the boat. I will leave the crowd and I will come to you. I think that's how we need to learn to know Jesus. I think that's the only way you will learn to really know Jesus. Jesus is the one who will command you to step out into the sea, to test the waters, and show what your faith is made of. That's who Jesus is. That's why he came here. He did not come here to say, you stay in the boat and I'll help you out where you are. How many times in your life have you been in peril and you have had to decide to step out of the boat and trust Jesus or not? I will give you a second to review your life and fast forward. Thank God for Peter. It's Peter who wants to be sure and follows through, and he gets out of the boat into the chaos. I don't think Jesus wanted him to be so unique. I think in his human heart, Jesus was hoping that they all would get out of the boat and walk on that sea, so that they all could have that personal validation and affirmation that their faith in him was all they needed to live and survive in this life. But 11 sat and probably prayed or not, I don't know. And one asked for affirmation and got out and went. That's the miracle. Not that Jesus walked, but that Peter walked. Peter, human, finite, Peter asked and responded out of faith. And so what happens? He walks and he has his eyes focused in the right place on Jesus. But Peter's human. and he's not God. And what happens? He gets halfway out there, and he starts to remember where he is. He starts to re-enter into his humanness. And, whoops! Uh-oh, what happened? What happened was, life happened to Peter, just like it's happening to you right now. Life will happen. You are not going to be able to walk on water with your God the entire rest of your journey here on earth. So what happens? Peter, in his humanness, loses focus on God and remembers where he lives. Whoops! What does he do? 3 words. I love the 3 words that are just all pervasive throughout Matthew's gospel. This time it's not, you are forgiven. This time it's, Lord, save me. Lord, save me, up to his neck. And when we hear those words in the gospel read, we also hear right next to him the word this, one word, immediately. Hear that. Immediately, Jesus put out his hand, and Peter and he were back in the boat. There is the miracle, my friends. It is not the circumstances. As I look out here, I see all kinds of circumstances. I see all kinds of chaos in this world and in your lives. Maple Ridge, I know the chaos. You have too. So what is the miracle? One is, have the courage, my fellow Christians, to say, Lord, if it's you, command me to take a risk. Those are the words. Lord, if you are there in my life, command me to take a risk. Command me to step out of my comfort zone. And do it. Now, while you're out there, focused, you have to allow for life, just like Peter did, and you will lose focus for a little bit. And when you lose focus in your life about who's leading the life, what's the second thing Jesus teaches you to do? Jesus, save me. All you have to do in your immediate time of need as a believer is to say the words, God help me, Jesus help me. And then believe that not, well, if you pray hard enough and you wait, you will see God's divine manifestation in your life. See, I know all that terminology and language. You all know me well enough that that's not how I preach. I use Jesus' word, according to Matthew, which said, immediately God's hand reached out and pulled him where? Not to safety. They didn't fly to shore in a tele thing or on the back of a drone. Immediately, he pulled him back into the boat. Don't let that be lost on you either. He didn't take him away and say, oh, my son, thank you. You were so great about the faith. I forgive you about the doubt. I know that's fine. No, he puts him right back in the middle of where he was in his life. But now Peter's got it a little differently than the other 11. Because what does the text say? And the other 11 started praising God. Why? Because they were the beneficiary of Peter's action. Right? The sea calmed. Whew, thanks, Pete. You're our bro. You know, boy, you ever been in that situation? I'm sure glad he did it because I sure didn't want to get out there. Yeah, yeah. So there it is, friends. So here we are. Here we are. Here we are. We are in the boat. I like this boat particularly. This boat looks nice. I know everybody in this boat. I know everybody in the boat. And we're good people. And we're kind of like Peter. Lord, if you're really in my life, help me do something. Help me, command me, tell me to get out of my comfort zone, to get out of the safety net of my family or my life or my church or wherever your safety net is, where you can be insulated and spew and talk all kinds of language and have good opinions about how awful this world is, and we wish the violence would stop, etc., 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 and we can bemoan with each other, even over coffee, how terrible that is. Do you not sound like one of the 11? Sounds like one of the 11 to me. So what do you need to do? You need to get out of the boat. You need to get out of the boat. Love you, girl. Reverend Bob.
Yes.
It is a joy and a pleasure to see you. Annie. Get up here. Wait a minute, I'm going to lunge over the pail.
Thank you.
Oh, and that was really interesting. We even got feedback from that. What you have to do is get out of the boat, focus on Jesus, not worry that you're standing in the middle of the storm. Go forth in his name, and you can minister while you do it. And you know what? When you feel that you are going down, all you need to do, everybody's got a right hand, take that right hand and reach it in front of yourself and say, Jesus, save me. He's the best guy you've got. 100%. And immediately when you say those words in faith, I want you to feel, Shirley, do you feel it? That's Jesus. That's not me. I would like you to take and reach your hand to somebody around you and grab their hand so that you feel that's the humanness. But through that humanness, the divine can happen in your life. I am looking around. I am looking at miracles all over this church. I'm looking at Scott, and there is a miracle right there. And Lisa. God is alive and present today, just as he was for Peter. Don't ever forget that. And in his name, I say to you, get out of the boat and love as Jesus loved you. Amen.